difficult time, and there is a lot of stress involved with this, and there's a lot of things that people are unsure of, and the one thing that I tell my patients that we can be sure of is our health. Right? There's nothing more important, there's nothing more sacred, there's nothing more valuable than our health, and health should be valued before sickness comes, you know. And unfortunately, the mindset of a lot of people, nobody here in this group, thank goodness, but a lot of people is, you know what, there's an epidemic going on. Oh my goodness, now I need to take care of myself. Now I need to do something about it. Well, what about before? What's wrong with being proactive and preventative? And to be honest with you, I left a Western medicine career because I didn't feel good about it. I saw that a lot of people, and we need Western medicine, especially right now, so I'm not saying anything negative, but for me, I would go home at night and think, man, we're missing something. We really are. I don't know what it is yet, but we're missing something, and I'm going to find it. So that's where my journey of different forms of medicine and looking more into natural medicine, holistic medicine, oriental medicine, genetics, of course, was my eye-opener and my love and my baby and my passion. Can't just have passion, though. You got to have obsession, right? You got to live, eat, sleep, think. Everything you do has to be about that, and that's what it is for me. I dream about genetic SNPs floating through the air. It's pretty sad, but it's been the most amazing thing for me. And you know what? I haven't had a single patient come to me with a symptom of COVID-19. That's pretty awesome. So I do want to say one thing real quick that I just got from a patient of mine. He's 74 years old. He has stage 4 renal disease. He was told by his nephrologist about two and a half years ago that he was going to need dialysis. And he said, you know what? I had a friend of mine who saw this doctor who does this genetic thing, and I think I'm going to go see her. And he said, I would advise against it. She's going to give you supplements and it's going to kill you. 2 years ago, he emailed me today. I've been working with him for 2 years and said, thank you for helping keep me alive. I sure do appreciate everything you're helping me with. I love you, man. And to me, that was, you know, we've kept him off dialysis. He has not had a single round of dialysis. This is a kidney failure patient. Not a single medication, not a single freaking medication. It's all been based on his genetics, his lifestyle, his epigenetics, and the supplements that I know his body can handle, and therefore don't have to be filtered through his kidneys. When you give the body what it needs and what it asks for in the right amount, the body has to work harder to break it down and utilize it and put it where it needs to go, right? So we've saved his kidneys. His GFR went from being 12, he's now at 25. That's huge. That keeps him off dialysis, and he's 74 years old. So if a 74-year-old man who came to me with eating like garbage can overcome these things, guess what? We all can do the same thing. There's literally no excuses. This is a rock star team. I'm super excited to be here with all of you as well. So I'm going to give you a little gem, because I do adore this team. I do adore Mr. and Mrs. Malott. I do adore Kyle. I adore all of you. So I'm going to give you something that I have not given to anybody else yet. So shh, don't go telling everybody else. Is one of my presentations that I use when I train physicians on how to implement nutrigenetics into their practice. So this first slide, of course, is just the introduction for it. Kyle, you can go to the next one for me if you don't mind. So we don't have a whole lot of time. Let me move my little box. So what I'm going to do is highlight some of the important stuff. I want these here so you guys can take a snapshot of them if you'd like. You can utilize this. I swear the slides don't normally look like that, but it looks like I threw something at it, and I promise I didn't. But please feel free to take pictures of all these things as well. And I apologize if they don't look right. It might have been my fault of what I sent Kyle. So breakdown of what nutrigenetics is, I'm sure that you all know. If you don't, it's the study between nutrition and our personal genetic makeup, and how our biochemistry is affected, how we absorb, how we utilize nutrition and nutritional supplementation, even from our food, of course, how we can absorb and utilize things, how they get into the cell, and how they're used to do all the biochemical processes that our bodies need. It also can help with how we metabolize not only our nutrition, but also our supplementation, and also if we're able to detox from these exogenous triggers, such as viruses, bacteria, fungus, even trauma. Go ahead and go to the next one. I get to boss Kyle around for a while, so this is fun. Again, please feel free to take a picture. I'm sorry for the smudge in the middle of it, but just kind of basics of biology, of course. We all know, that genes are the study of all levels of cellular processes and biochemical stuff. Kyle, you're welcome to do, if you want to do something different, go for it. I can continue to talk. They stemmed from plants. That's how they started to be studied. McGregor did start, or Gregor Mendel, excuse me. That's Kyle McGregor. See, I was thinking Kyle.
It's a great name, by the way.
I was like, wait a minute, that's not who invented it, but I'll give it to you if you want for today. I am human, I promise, so I'm going to be very human in all this as well. It started in plants, and that's where the thought process, the original theory of genetics came into play, and then one of his successors took it over and realized that there's more to it than plants, that actually translates into the human genome and the human body and biology as well. So go ahead and go to the next slide. I find this to be a great book. This was written in 1975, so the conversation of nutrigenetics has been long forego. It's just that it's not really something that we hear about often because, Western medicine in our society today says that we need medications, and that is true. But we forget about the proactive and the chronic and how we can help our bodies with chronic disease and staying away from that and being proactive and preventative. So in case you're ever bored and you want to read, this is a good book to start with. Go ahead and go next. I found this to be an interesting article. This was Time Magazine. This was back in 2003. Now, he says 50 years from now, right, we will have this individualized, personalized preventative medicine that's based on our predisposed risk, or our predicted risks of disease and assessment. And we're going to look at all this, and it's going to cost us $100 to do so. And that way we have all this information, and it'll be part of our medical records. And I thought, well, that was in 2003. They projected 50 years, and here we are. So we're definitely ahead of the curve, which is awesome. This was a great article by PubMed. This was published in 2010. This was one of my eye-openers. I'm sorry if it looks a little strange, but pretty much saying that, guess what? We can control the conversion of healthy phenotypes, these healthy genes, to disease by understanding the risk and understanding how these certain nutrients metabolize and their action on the cells. And guess what? We can create genome stability and help keep people out of chronic disease. Awesome, right? Next. So why should we care, right? Well, for one, we should care because we want to be healthy. We want to be our best self. We want to be our healthiest self. For those who don't know what SNPs are, the single nucleotide polymorphisms, one of my favorite big words to say besides mitochondria. Of course, those are the individual ingredients, I say, that make us who we are. We are 99% alike. It's that 1% that makes us unique and makes us special, which is awesome. We also, why are we going to spend hard-earned money on things that we don't know if they are positively affecting us or not, right? I mean, I know we all have the cabinets and the shelves and the closets. I have a freaking closet of supplements, right, that I used before I knew what I was really doing. And I kept them because I wanted to remember when I opened that every time, man, this is what I used to do. This is the money that I used to spend. These are the things that I used to take. I had no idea if they were helping or not. I took them because, oh, well, I read a study, or, oh, my friend took this. So instead of going and wasting all of our hard-earned money, which right now is very, very valuable and important, let's take the stuff that our body needs, right? Next one. So everybody always asks me, well, why, right? Why do we need to take supplements anyway? Can't we get everything from food? Well, nutritional deficiencies are actually very common. This study was done by the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey that actually looked at children and adults and realized, hey, there are some big deficiencies within the population. So we know that people are deficient in things. Next one, Kyle. There you go. No, don't go ahead. Yeah, thanks. Get our nutrition from food. I really do this. And people come to me all the time and say, can I just eat my nutrition? I want you to still eat well. I'm not going to say, no, you can't just go eat, Burger King and McDonald's and Oreos and drink soda and beer all day and you'll be fine. Absolutely not. However, our bodies have a way of converting these things, and I'm going to show you a little bit more what that looks like. And if we're unable to do this, we're not getting the proper nutrients in the first place. We're eating all this folic acid rich foods, right? And next thing you know, our bodies can't convert because we're MTHFR or MTRR, and we can't convert this folic acid into folate. That's what the cell wants. That's what the cell uses and absorbs. So therefore, no, we're not getting that proper amount of nutrition. So please feel free to take a picture, and I'll send different slides. Kyle, I don't know if this was on my part or yours, that it has this stuff in the middle to make sure that your team does get good slides.
I'm not quite sure. This is actually the art version of the slides. I have no idea how this showed up, but we'll make sure we get the slides out to everybody so they can actually have a untainted version, okay?
Yes, exactly. I'm like, that's interesting. But no, that way you guys can have them. Please feel free, obviously, to use them if you would like. These come from me. These are my personal slides. So this is all my information here. So here's my thing. Something's missing, right? We don't have that individual scientific validation. Okay, so the RDA actually looks at these nutrient intake required, and they look at healthy adults for one, right? So they're looking at things that will not for deficiencies, right? They're saying, well, to be healthy, this is what you need to take. There's no genetic component in mind. There's no possible deficiency in mind. These are healthy individuals that they're looking at. There's no epigenetic component that's correlated or brought into this, right? So everybody has a different lifestyle. Nobody lives their life the same. Nobody has the same occupation. Nobody eats the same. Nobody lives in the same geographic location. So all those things should be counted for when we're looking at what these possible recommended daily nutrition and allowances should be for each individual. So that's why I think when we go with just saying, oh, this is what the government, there you go. The government says that RDA should be, well, I poo-poo that a little bit because we're all so different and we need to base it on our individual needs. Next. Poor Kyle. There it is. So there she is, going down the hole of doom, of her doom and gloom for her predispositions on her genetics. That's what everybody thinks, right?
This is
that's why I put this on here, because who doesn't love Alice in Wonderland, for one? And for another, that's what people think. Oh, I don't want to do my genetics because then I'm going to know what I'm predisposed to. It's not a weapon, it's a tool. And you're not, this isn't doom and gloom. Here's what we're looking at. So this is what I tell physicians, what the propagation of disorder is. What we're looking for is we can recognize the inability to resolve these metabolic deficiencies and inflammatory states. That also has to do with our immune system as well. We look for those possible triggering events, oxidative stress and things like that, and we define that through genetics and lifestyle. So it's not just genetics. It's also looking at, as a physician, we're also looking at a triad, if you will, or the triple crown, I like to call them, which is your blood work, your information that you tell me, because if I listen to you well enough, which I listen to all my patients, you're going to tell me everything I need to know. This is my validation, is your blood work and your genetics. Next, so we'll say bye to Alice. So these genetic predispositions, what are we looking for? So again, this is stuff that I use to teach physicians, so that's why this is a little more in depth. But you're welcome. I think you guys should all know this. Inflammatory methylation, of course, which is your B vitamins, your mitochondria, which, man, we want that tough, right? Detoxification and cardiovascular. And that's what we're looking at as well with euphoria and those SNPs. Some of those triggering events are oxidative stressors that I talk about. Again, epigenetics, those severe infections, including viruses, right? How our body's going to react to these things. That's that oxidative stress. Sometimes we can't avoid these, and that's just part of either our occupation, guys that work in these, or men and women, that work in these chemical plants, or men that used to mine, in the mining holes and stuff. We can't always control that environment, but if we know how our body's going to react to that, then we can help support it better. Go ahead, next. This is us overcoming, right? We're climbing up. We're going to overcome these genetic weaknesses because we understand and recognize what that means. So it's minimizing that oxidative stress and looking at those lifestyle cofactors and maximizing our recovery potential. My 3 favorite words when it comes to genetics: maximizing recovery potential, how our bodies recover from those oxidative stressors. We can't be 100% of the time. We can't avoid the fact that this virus is out there, right? We just literally cannot. So if we can then control how our body, recognize where our weaknesses are and support those, then we can help our body be stronger to fight off these oxidative stressors, including things like this COVID-19. Next. So here's what I tell practitioners. This is what we have to do. These are our 5 primary principles of healing and health. This is what we have to accomplish. Inflammation control, right? How our bodies respond to different environmental triggers or even trauma and emotions. Those can turn on genes as well. Methylation, which is our MTHFR and our MTRO, that's our gasoline. That's what fuels our cells to be able to do what we need to do. Mitochondrial energy, I always say these are our good batteries, right? This is what keeps us charged, keeps our energy up, keeps us going. Detoxification, which is how we can detoxify from these environmental triggers and including stress and trauma, and assist the patient with their symptoms, right? We want to heal them. We don't want to just Band-Aid them. We want to heal them. To me, that's important. Next. Sorry, guys. So what's the goal of personalized precision? I like to use both those words. Personalized precision medicine with genetic validation, the right supplement, and the right amount for the right individual. Period, end of sentence. Okay, next. Just a quick little food for thought. I always tell them, be skeptical. Demand proof, always want that evidence, but here's something we're really not good at, right? Is when we get it, we need to accept it. And sometimes we're not good at doing that. So that's what I talk about with genetics. Accept it and let's learn from it and let's use it as a tool and not a weapon and take that as power. Next. So here we're going to talk about kind of some of the biochemistry of these polymorphisms that we do look at and we do see here, and not only with Euphoria, but that I look at in practice as well. Next. Immune and inflammation. The first thing I always look at and go after, right? How our bodies respond to these acute and chronic inflammatory type conditions, right? So polymorphisms or the yellows and the reds, we should say, within these particular pathways can increase the relative risk of autoimmunity and or inflammatory disease, right? So it's how our bodies understand how to react to oxidative stress, and it actually will inhibit our immune system. So think about it. If our immune system is overactive, because we have some of these like IL-6 and CRP, we have some of these immune type and inflammatory type SNPs in a yellow or a red, right? So that means that we got a copy from one parent, not the other. We tend to be more aggressive with our immune response. I always tell people it's like getting a bug bite. Instead of it just being a little bit bug bite, it blows up into something big. That's an aggressive immune and inflammatory response. Now imagine that happening on the inside of your body. We don't want that, right? We want our body to understand, hey, this is an innate immunity. This is an acute inflammatory response. Body ramps up, does what it needs to do. Homeostasis goes back to normal after the bacteria, the disease, the trauma, whatever it is, has subsided and the body has done its job. We're self-healing mechanisms, right? But if we have these aggressive immune or inflammatory response and we have this ongoing stimulus, as I say, like constantly every day we're exposed to certain things that we might not even be able to help. Our immune system is almost like, uh-oh, I don't know what to do. And they're running into each other and they're like little children freaking out and they're confused. So how is it supposed to do its job when it's like we've got the whole army out, but they're all shooting each other? So my favorite analogy that I like to tell patients and physicians, it's like burning down the whole neighborhood to kill one bad guy. That's exactly what our immune system is doing. Next. Inflammaging, my favorite new phrase. I can't say I coined it, but man, I love it. One of the most powerful tools in the research of aging processes is genomics. They just came out with this in January. Take a picture of that. blow it up, use it. You can find this study anywhere. I put the link there as well. Scientists have identified the role of chronic inflammation of as the cause of accelerated aging. Holy crap, right? Like, I don't want to look like I'll just say in my 40s, which is...
Wait, is that guy like 35 years old? Like...
But seriously, like, I'm like, I don't want to look like I'm in my 40s, right? So I want to make sure that, you know, people are like, wait a minute, you're how old? Are you old enough to have children? Like, so this was a big part of me being able to understand my genetic predisposition so I can take care of myself on that optimal level, right? Because I was blessed with some good genetics, with some not so much. So I want to make sure that I take care of those. Next. Jeff Daniels, that was a good one. Brian, it didn't look like him. Methylation. You're the most beautiful MTHFR I've ever seen, right? If you were in Dallas, you heard me say this word out loud. I know I could do it here, but we used to call this the mother effer gene. And that's what we've always called it, even in biomedicine when we tested it for recurrent miscarriages. Believe it or not, we tested the MTHFR for recurrent miscarriages. That is a small fraction of what this process or this whole biochemical process does. That one gene is one of just 7+ steps, right? So obviously this is going to affect our cellular delivery, right? The delivery of nutrients that we get to the cell so we can start the biological process. This is the gasoline. So as you're putting gas in your car so we can drive, this is putting gasoline into your cells, fuel into your cells, not gasoline, fuel into your cells so you can do all the things. I always tell patients, it means something different for everybody. I want you to be able to do all the things. If you're a mother of 7 and you've got a million things to do, I want you to do that. If you're, a career-driven person, I want you to do that. If you just want to sit at home and on the couch and eat bonbons all day, we'll talk about that later. But okay, fine, I want you to do that and maybe some other stuff too. But the functionality of almost every single cell in the human body is reliant upon this, believe it or not. So are you genetically in one bad MTHFR? Yeah, we all are, right? Okay, go ahead, Kyle, next. Here's where I say think gasoline. There's 7 steps to create 5-methyltetrahydrofolate, which is what is used by the body. So you've got folic acid up at the top, and that's from food sources. You've got your dietary folate, right? But then it has to go through all those 7 steps to be able to get to MTHFR. What if we have a hiccup or a variant in any of those? How do we know that we're taking the right thing? Well, you know, because you did your testing, you're taking the right form in euphoria. But look at all the things that methylation is fundamental to when it comes to bodily functions, right? Look at all those things. And I highlighted immune cells because right now immune and immune system is very important. But did you have any idea that histamine clearance or your possible allergies have anything to do with that? Your micronutrient absorption, how you absorb all of your vitamins and minerals has to do with this, right? The expression of genes, the central nervous system development, neurotransmitters, which are feel-goods or have a lot to do with how our brains function. So all of these things are prefaced by methylation itself. Next.
Can you explain real briefly, just to recap, what methylation is? I think just to get clarity on that, because I think we're talking a little bit more about that.
Of course. So methylation is the genes that we look at here. There are many other genes that we look at with methylation as well, but the big heavy hitters that we chose with euphoria is, of course, the 2 MTHFRs. There's a 677 and 1298. They make up 90% of how your body, what we call, methylates. So what it does is it takes an inactive form of a certain nutrient and converts it to an active form so it can get into the cell, so it can put cellular energy there to start all those biochemical processes that I just listed out. So methylation is you being able to methylate or convert inactive to active, so that way your body and your cells know what to do, and they're fed the right nutrients, they're fed the right micronutrients, so they can do all those 250 plus biochemical processes that we do on a daily basis without even thinking about it. So methylation is pretty important. So when I say gasoline, yeah, this is what fuels your body. My favorite mitochondria. Man, because mainly I want to be a rock star all the time, right? I want to be a powerhouse. I want my brain and my body to do exactly what I want it to do at all times. I don't want to be pushed back, or I don't want to be at a point where I can't do something because, I'm just too tired, or, I'm having brain fog, or I just can't think straight. Mitochondria do so many things for our body. And this is one of my favorites just because it's the batteries, right? So polymorphisms in this can increase chronic fatigue, of course, people who come in with chronic fatigue syndrome, or the inability for the immune cells to actually function properly. Immune cells need energy, right? That's how they start things. So methylation actually feeds energy to be able to start the process of creating ATP, which is part of what creates mitochondria, so that we can do all the things we need to do, right? So they consider mitochondria the central hub for our immune system. So of course we want to strengthen our mitochondria. Nobody likes a weak powerhouse, that's for sure. Next. So here's when I say mitochondria, you guys know me, if you've heard me speak before, I always try to give analogies that help. I was talking to John and Kyle before, and I told them I just want my patients to walk out that door and know exactly what I'm talking about, because this is in-depth stuff. So if I can tell them, this is why you're taking these things, this is what I expect you to experience, they can actually give me better feedback in a sense too, so I can understand if we're going down that right path or if we need to do something different, because everybody is going to react to things differently. So this is ground zero for energy production. You're not going to walk around with your cell phone having a dead battery. Why are you going to let your bodies do that, right? Why in the hell would you let your bodies do that when you'll do anything to charge your damn phone? So, of course, it also is known as one of the central features of aging. If we don't have young, fresh mitochondria in there, they do tend to push us more towards chronic disease and accelerated aging. Of course, it creates ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is our energy. The immune system actually needs this energy. It's a process called mitochondrial dynamics, which we can get into more later. But just to give you guys some gems, of course, like I said, this is what the docs who I train get to see. This is the central hub for the innate and the adaptive immune cells, meaning what our bodies are supposed to do on their own. So I think mitochondria is pretty darn important. I think gasoline's important. Obviously, when we have a car, we need what? We need fuel and we need spark. We also need compression. To me, that's what all these things that we're taking does for our body. But you can't drive a car without, well, I said that once and somebody said, well, what about a hybrid or what about a Tesla? And I'm like, oh, but you need batteries. So there you go. So might not need fuel, but you need something, right? Okay, next. Darn Teslas, they mess up my speech. Detox. I'm not talking about the kind of detox where you're running to the bathroom all day long with diarrhea. Everybody seems to think when I say we're going to go, this is your detoxification pathway, they're like, oh man, am I going to be running to the bathroom all day long? I'm like, I hope not. If you are, we need to talk about some other things, right? So variations within this pathway actually decrease what we call our glutathione. Glutathione production, that's our master detoxifier of all of our cells. We produce it on our own. However, some of us have a more difficult time producing enough to be able to get out those excess free radicals. Those are the bad guys. And oxidative stress, I like to say those are our zombie cells. Those are the ones, if they're full of crap, they're going to be walking around. They don't know what to do. They're full of garbage. They're full of junk. They can't do their job. So let's kill those zombie cells and get them fresh and new and be able to absorb all these nutrients and be able to start all the processes that we need to do on a daily basis. Next one, please. So this is just kind of giving a little information on what phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 detox look like. This is phase 1 detox, so the toxins, which are fat soluble at the time. So these are anything that we could be exposed to. There's a lot more. These are just some of the big ones that I list. Of course, pesticides, herbicides, food additives, alcohol, xenestrogens, which are excess or over dominant estrogens, and that even could be if we have high estrogen levels as well, which men can have, and I've seen more so recently than not. Most men do have high estrogen levels. Cosmetics, believe it or not, women, we put over 150 chemicals on our face and body in the morning just to get ready, and I'm not saying we can't do that anymore. Of course, we want to try to find better natural products. However, if we can't detoxify from even our makeup, there's things in our makeup that our body just like, I don't know what to do with this, and it ends up clogging our cells and creating those zombie cells. Phase 2 detoxification is where it turns it into water soluble so the body can eliminate it. So it's of course eliminated through 2 different things. Through the gallbladder, if we don't have the gallbladder, then it does the liver, kind of sort of takes over the job a little bit. If you don't have a gallbladder, then make sure that your liver's nice and healthy, of course. That's why your detoxification pathway, like that SOD2 SNP, and your EPHX1 and your GSTP1 are the important ones with euphoria. Also through our kidneys, right, to excrete during urine. So if you're taking drugs or medication or supplements that your body doesn't understand what to do with, it's going to be filtered through one of those processes, right? So that's why my gentleman with kidney disease, his doctor said, oh, she's going to give you supplements and she's going to kill you, essentially is kind of what he made it sound like. Well, actually, I think he was the one that was about to kill him. So because we understand what his body needs, we can give him exactly what it understands, the receptiveness of it. It understands what to do with it, take it in, absorb it, utilize it. And therefore, it doesn't have to be filtered through his kidneys. So his kidneys get to take a little break because those guys are pretty tired. So next one. Phase 3 is the transportation. I actually had a little poop emoji on this one, and my daughter made me take it off. She's like, Mom, you're going to put a poop emoji on here? I'm, hell yes, I am. We all talk about it. We all know we need to do it, right? So
it's
phase 3.
function. We all do it.
Very open topic with me. I would talk about, so what color is your poop? Is it snakes or rocks? And my patients don't know that we're going to talk poop. My children are just like, oh God, well, they're awesome girls. I have 2 awesome girls. Phase 3, of course, requires enough hydration for the kidneys to eliminate. Kyle's drawing poop on there for me. Yes. Proper GI function of the GI system, of course, is required so we can poop well, right? We want to poop. We want to poop daily. We don't want to have constipation. We don't want to have super loose stools. We don't want to have diarrhea. We want to have a normal, quote unquote, bowel movement, right? So this is just another phrase that I found. Of course, if we have a buildup or we don't take the metabolites from phase 1 and be able to transfer them into phase 2 to be able to become water soluble so we can eliminate them and then move into phase 3, we can get a buildup. That buildup does increase our oxidative stress or damage, and that can cause damage to how our cells function and impairs our detoxification capacity. So therefore, we don't detoxify well. And if we have a genetic predisposition to not create enough glutathione, which helps our cells detoxify, or if we have SOD2, which is the gene that actually helps get rid of those free radicals and oxidative stress, then guess what? We're going to have a buildup here, and that's when we become sick. Next one. Health precautions. What are your genes predisposed you to? Again, this is a lot of stuff that I use for physicians. We know preventative and proactive care is key. We know Nutrigenetics gives your body a voice. That's my quote for Euphoria, of course. These are some of the things that we look at, or some of the things that I tell physicians. If you have any patients with these problems, and I guarantee there's never a single person in that entire room that says, oh, I don't have anybody with those problems. I actually can say that now, right? But not when I first get them. Next slide. And that's not bragging. We work really hard. I'm humble, like Kyle says. So of course, how do we address them? We say goodbye to blind nutrition first and foremost, of course. We identify their underlying genetic variants or their predispositions. We understand that molecular level, that cellular level interaction between these nutrients and their effect on our health and our recovery. Remember, our recovery potential, that's what we want to enhance. And we want to make sure that we give the right nutrition in the right amount. And of course, we always have to consider epigenetics, which is lifestyle. Next one. Types of genetic testing. You guys can take a snapshot of this because a lot of people don't understand the difference between ancestral, traits, pharmacogenetics, and nutrigenomics or nutrigenetics, which is what we do, right? So I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you make sure you guys get a good picture of it. Pretty much what we're doing is we're looking at those actionable nutritional pathways that we can influence, or at least we can give epigenetic or lifestyle influences to help support this on a healthy level. It's great to know our traits and features, right? What color eyes we're going to have, what color hair we were supposed to be born with. I'm naturally blonde, not gonna lie. But it's nice to know those things, right? But we can't influence them unless we, of course, dye our hair or things like that. We want to be able to influence how our body reacts to these things. We want to know our biochemical pathways. We want to be able to give lifestyle recommendations. We want to be proactive and preventative. And that's what we can do, because not only do we say, hey, here's what's going on, but guess what? Here's your solution too.
I think that's big too. Just to give a little quick comment is like, I can dye my hair. I mean, the hair that I have, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you may know where you come from, but at the end of the day, like, how is that really going to impact you? Like, how important is that in your life? Like, the most important aspects is your health, your overall wellness, your longevity of life. Like, those are the big factors. And to be able to implement and utilize, genetics and nutrigenomics to be able to impact our lives in that space, I think that's the biggest aspect that we need to really look at.
Oh, for sure. And think about it. It's also nice to be able to not put a negative spin on it. To not say, oh man, you're predisposed to Alzheimer's, you're predisposed to this, you're predisposed to that. I don't do that with my patients. There's a particular SNP that I look at, and instead of being like, oh, you have the anxiety gene, I'm just like, you know what? You have the warrior gene. You're going to get shit done. I have this gene. Am I anxious? Do I have anxiety? No. Do I get overwhelmed sometimes? Sure. That's a natural human process, of course. But when you understand, hey, I'm just the type of person that
it is important to know your genotype.
Pardon?
Why is it
I lost him. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. What we'll do is we're going to do this. Anybody that has questions, this is the beautiful part, and I'll just interject real quick just because somebody asked a question. We're going to hold all questions until the end. Actually, we'll have everybody, if you have questions, go ahead and put in the text thread, and we'll actually be doing a second event coming Sunday to answer a lot of the questions that people may have during this presentation. Okay, so no need to unmute yourself or ask questions this time. Okay, guys?
Yes, no, that's why I keep these slides, and that way if you have questions on them, I know them pretty through and through, so I'll be able to help you guys answer them. And if I can't answer it, I'll find the answer out. But nobody stumped me yet, so I challenge you a little bit. Not when it comes to this stuff. But yes, so understanding this and putting a positive spin on it too. We all have these genetic weaknesses. Every single one of us. It doesn't make us weak. It actually gives us power to understand that that's how our bodies work, and we just need to come in and support it. So that's the awesome part. So next slide. Here's what I talk to, physicians are like, oh, why do I just do blood tests? Why do I need to do genetics too on top of it? They're so metabolic and nutrient testing is very important to me. And I still think everybody should follow up with their healthcare provider, whomever that may be, to make sure that they're doing everything that they're supposed to, because it is a snapshot. Results do change very quickly. In fact, we can change our C-reactive protein through our blood work like that. We can't change that gene, of course. That stays exactly the same no matter what. We can turn it on and off, but that gene won't change. That's why we never have to repeat having DNA tests done. But we want to be able to monitor what we're doing through blood work to make sure we're doing the right thing and we're progressing in the right way. And I don't need to go back and say, hey, maybe I need to address this a little bit differently. So it gives us our guidance, our recommendations, shows some of the therapeutic dosing if it's not something that we're looking at through genetics, of course. Even with genetics, I mean, think about it. If you don't have the VDR TAC, which is the vitamin D receptor, you think you're good on vitamin D. I'm going to tell you right now, most of the time that's not the case. So we check a vitamin D level through blood work. We see that you're low, or maybe you are normal, which I don't see very often. Then we know we still need to give vitamin D. Your body's just going to be receptive to it. It's going to understand it. We can do it on a lower dosage than if you have this VDR TAC gene. So that's the difference, right? So this DNA test, I mean, that's your blueprint. This says who you are. It doesn't get more precise than that. Sequencing, of course, does not change. Removes the guesswork. I'm not a good guesser. I don't gamble because, for one, I don't like to see my money go away, and I'm really not good at gambling. So I'd rather have that concrete evidence in front of me to show me, hey, this is what you're doing and why. Shows our metabolic or our cellular weaknesses. It enhances my three favorite. It enhances our recovery potential, which to me is more important than anything. everything. And it's very specific and personalized too. So that's why coupled together, we get maximized results, of course. So next one, they are the power couple. Of course, it's all about nutrigenetics, using as a tool, not a weapon. I get so upset when I see companies come in, and it's not a lot, but there are a couple, and I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about, 23andMe. But anyway, not afraid to throw anybody out.
I didn't hear that.
It's you guys. I figure I can do this. But seriously, that use it as, here you are predisposed to all these things. They had to actually start a psychology department inside the 23andMe building for people to be able to call in, because they were finding out that their parents were not their real parents, or they had their father gave birth to, or had an affair, and this and that and the other. Like that's not what it's about. It's about understanding. If you want to know that, fine. That's great. I'd rather just be like, I don't think I really want to know that. But understanding how our body works and its functionality, and being able to say, hey, there's some weaknesses here, and that's okay, because I'm going to support it and I'm going to do it the right way instead of guessing. That's powerful, and it's just another tool. So when you're talking to these healthcare providers, instead of saying, hey, don't you want to help your patients better? Hey, don't you want to be a better practitioner? No doctor wants to hear that. Somebody walks in the office and tells my office manager, I'm going to show your doctor how to be a better doctor. She's going to go, I don't think you know who you're talking to, and you need to leave. she's going to kick them out. But if you're talking to these practitioners about practitioner, and you say, how about another tool? How about another tool for your practice to be able to help with your patients? That's all it is a tool, and that's all they need to hear, is that what they're doing is great, and all you're offering them is another tool to help their patients. So always use the word tool when you're talking to these docs. Obviously, we have research in progress, as always. That's why I always say data collected for 10 plus years. We're doing some micronutrient, which is your blood work and genetic testing, along with other modalities that we're using. Participants in these particular in-house studies that we're doing have different diagnoses, different conditions. We're also looking at different geographic locations. Of course, again, the goal is to optimize overall health and wellness while increasing our recovery potential. So there is research. Everybody always asks, are we doing in-house research? I didn't say anything there. Evolution of DNA-based nutrition. Here's what we're trying to do. So it goes from one side to the other. Triggering events or our lifestyle. What do we want to do? We want to optimize lifestyle recommendations. Propagation of disorder, the inability to resolve these metabolic deficiencies or inflammatory states. That's our genetics. We want to enhance our recovery potential. These molecular or cellular interactions between nutrients and their bioavailability. That's these micronutrients. Here's where the personalized nutrition and nutritional supplementation comes into play. The microorganisms, right, in our body and how they respond to the environment, right? We want to make sure we feed the bodies with the correct nutrients so our bodies can thrive and perform at that optimal level. So this is kind of the evolution of it. This is what I say that we're going to be able to use and do with our patients. And for you guys, this is what you're getting with Euphoria, which is really cool. So next one. The end of an era, right? So we want to say goodbye to blind nutrition, goodbye to looking at that long magnesium, calcium, vitamin D. You're looking down there, omegas. You're like, oh my God, what do I take? Ubiquinol, CoQ10 is the perfect example, right? Before this and before the conversation of this, I can guarantee there probably weren't very many people that understood that CoQ10, ubiquinol, and ubiquinone were kind of the same family, but had different actions and were available to different people in different forms based on their genetics and how their body breaks that down. So, of course, there are I wanted to know, why do people take supplements? So I pulled the research, and this is what I found. Of course, 86% of people, 4 out of 5 Americans take supplements, right? 4 out of 5, 86%. And I would say that's probably even more than that. 24% of those taking them received a test indicating this is what they're supposed to take, right? So whether it's blood test, genetics, 24% of the population said, hey, I know that I'm supposed to take this because I took a test. Number one reason why people take supplements. This was a poll that was done, I believe it was the end of 2019, to feel better. People want to feel better. It wasn't about insomnia. It wasn't about constipation. I mean, that's all included in that. So now we're realizing it's not symptomatic based, right? It's not so much what are your symptoms? It's more, how do you feel? How do you want to feel? Well, damn it, I want to feel better. I mean, and that's what I ask my patients, what's your goal? I want to know what your goal is. Because to me, that's important to understand where your mindset is. And most people always say, I just want to feel better. And that encompasses everything that goes with that, right? And all those little symptoms. Because once you go after that root cause, those little branch symptoms, most of the time, if not always, get better. And if it doesn't, then there's something else missing. Is it a lifestyle cofactor? Is it something else that's being missed or something else that needs to be addressed by a healthcare provider at that point? So 51% of these people get recommendations from their physicians. Holy crap, that scared me when I saw that, only because not all of them think like I do. So they're going and they're saying, oh, you have cardiovascular disease, go get some CoQ10, right? People don't know the difference, that there's a difference between how your body takes in ubiquinol, ubiquinone, CoQ10, that there is an active form, whether you're yellow or red, it's going to be completely different, right? So people don't know these things. You need to take folic acid. I'm sure there's a bunch of women here who, when they were pregnant, their doctor said, take folic acid. You saw those 7 steps. If your body doesn't take that and convert it into the 5-methotetrahydrofolate to put it into the cell, you've wasted your time and money. So these physicians, this is why we're training these people to go out and say, hey, there's a more precise way to do this, right? So you can see the other percentages of broken down into why people do what they do. I thought it was funny that 6% are based on their celebrities or their social media influencers. Well, damn it, you've got John Malott, so that's freaking awesome. So that makes me super excited when I see like, oh, well, he's a good influencer. He's the one I want influencing my patients and the people that I know. So rock star, awesome. Okay, next one. He is a rock star. I thought this was just fun. I always try to plug fun. You know what I mean? It's always like Google, Dr. Google said, well, I found it on Google. Oh gosh. We want validation, of course. Google has some answers for sure, but it's good for research and references, but it's not necessarily the answers to each individual person. It likes to umbrella people, and we don't like to umbrella people. We like to see exactly yours, like Ron's, your snowflake, right? Let's figure out your individual snowflake.
Well, I want to piggyback on that because we're all individuals. Your body's not mine, mine's not yours, you know, and Google has, you know, the overall macro perspective of things in regards to health. However, at the end of the day, what you're susceptible to, what you need, what you're predisposed to is completely different than somebody else's. So why are we taking the same stuff? It just doesn't make sense. So what we're doing here and what you're helping facilitate is helping the uniqueness of the identification of really what we're bringing to market and helping people get access to, you know, something that can actually help them specifically on their customization of what they truly need. So I know you'll hit on us here in a second, but thank you so much for addressing that. It's absolutely true because Google is not the end all know all, you know.
Do go through their symptoms all the time. And, you know, I would have patients that would come to me and I have ovarian cancer. And I'm like, you do? Okay, let's talk, you know, and I thought maybe they were serious. I went on Google and I typed in my symptoms and I have ovarian cancer. And I'm like, okay, well, let's rule that out first before Dr. Google tells us we have cancer. You know, everybody has cancer or is dying, and that's not necessarily the case. In fact, let's be proactive and preventative and understand our individuality so we don't have to worry about those big and scary C words and other chronic diseases, right? So DNA-based customized supplementation. To me, this is the future of well care. This is the future of precision, personalized medicine, which is coming more and more to mainstream. People are understanding the validity, the power behind personalized, because we understand that we are each, like Kyle said, unique and different organisms. We utilize things differently. We have different activity levels, different lifestyle, occupations, like I said, body types, how our biochemistry, I mean, it's all the way down to how our biochemistry works. And that's what we're looking at here. And that's the point I'm trying to get across to everybody, to patients, to you guys, to physicians, healthcare providers, to family, to everyone. We're not disease basing. We're not looking at genes and everybody's like, oh, I'll tell you what, over 10 years ago when I said I'm going into genetics, there's something about this that I love and I need to know more about it. Some of my colleagues looked at me and said, you can't change genes. So why are you going to waste your time? You're never going to make anything of yourself. You're never going to make any money. You're just going to come crawling back to obstetrics and gynecology, which is where I was at the time. And I literally had one of my really good friends who was a medical doctor stand there and look at me in the face and tell me that. So a couple of years ago, I called him and was like, boo-boo. What was I not going to do again? Not going to try to change the world one person at a time. You know, it's a slow process, but hey, that's what this is all about. This is about understanding. It's not about money. If I wanted to make money, I would have stayed in obstetrics and gynecology, but this is about being able, like that message I read you about helping somebody who didn't think they had hope. It's not medication driven. It's not disease based. It's understanding how people individually work, how their bodies work on an individual basis, and helping and support that and being as specific and as detailed as you can with that particular person. It doesn't get any better, any more rewarding, any more kick-ass than that. And to be honest with you, to be a powerhouse, to do all the things, like I always say, I mean something different for everybody. To do all the things that you want to do, you have to understand how your body specifically works and where your minor hiccups are that you can come in and support it. It's easy. It's literally this easy. The DNA test, the DNA report, the DNA customized supplementation. Are there other factors involved in of course, like I said, remember epigenetics too, but the DNA-based customized supplementation is literally that easy. It's not a difficult process. We have done all the work for you and are continuing to do all the work for you and for these practitioners so they don't have to if they don't want to. I hope they always educate themselves. If your doctor doesn't still study on a daily basis, get a new one. They should always be studying because the body changes, science innovates, everything changes and everything comes to light in science. That's the beauty of this, and we'll always change and innovate as well as a company. So if your doctor doesn't study, find a new one. Don't tell them I specifically said that. I don't want them to hunt me down, but this is where we want to be. This is where we want the future to be well care, to be personalized and precise. So I don't know if I have any more, Kyle.
Yeah, you do. I'm going to go on one more and then I'll bring on John. But just knowing that we have actually, I believe this, that, you know, the world provides, you know, medicines, right? Natural based medicines, you know, where we can actually have, that's why we've done these studies, you know, 20 plus years of research, about 100 plant-based purified ingredients. What we know, we can actually identify these markers and actually fulfill giving your body the right raw material so it operates optimally. I think that's a huge component there. And not getting into, you know, talking about the layman's terms, which I love that Dr. Jen is able to do. She can go crazy in depth, right? But at the end of the day, if you know this, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. What I do know is this: the things that I'm taking because of this specific type of customized designer nutrition has changed my life. You know, I mean, the type of results people are getting, because everyone's ailments are different. Everyone's body's different. And the things that they're receiving and rewarded from what they're taking is changing people's lives, which is a big, big component. So, yeah, I think you have one more slide, and then we'll introduce John here real briefly. But Dr. Jen, thank you so much for you know, coming on here today. And I know this will be a segue to our event that we're having here on Sunday. But
hey guys, let me jump in really quick, because I'm over here, you know, listening and taking all this in, and it's number one, I've never heard so many big words in my entire life. So I feel a lot smarter today between Kyle, all the big words Kyle uses on a regular basis, and then the medical names and terms that Jen, you know, obviously has this stuff down. But this is what I love about our business.
Smarter, by the way, just by listening to it.
No, I'm probably not any smarter. But this is what I love about our business, and I want to talk to the guests that are on here. The reason why we had this call is it's called backup. It's called validation. It's called credibility. today there's a lot of things you can do to make some extra income from home. You know, the challenge is, I call a lot of these so-called business opportunities, I call them laundering money amongst friends. It's wink, wink, don't tell anybody, but you know, you can get that nutrient, or you can get that thing for half the price on Amazon or from the vitamin shop or whatever. There's so many different opportunities, and they're being delivered with so much hype. And then there's the other side of it. It's, you know, someone has something, and then there's 8,000 other people that have the exact same thing. So two things have to happen. They have to use hype. They have to say, the thing that I have is better than the thing that you have. I hear people all the time, they talk about this nutrient, like they're the only ones on the planet that has this particular nutrient, or the way they get it. You know what I'm talking about? It's like the one pygmy tribe that discovered this one place in the middle of the earth, and, you know, lightning hit the tree, hit the zebra, created a nutrient puddle, and they're the only ones on the planet that have the extraction materials to bring that back. They put it in Dr. Zhivago's laboratory, and then we created this product, and you take it, and now you're going to live longer. You know, all this stuff's going to happen. Your wife's going to come home. The dog's going to like you better. It's just a bunch of BS, and it's out there. And I've been because I'm the number one authority on home-based businesses in the world, because this is what I live for. I live for helping people find a real opportunity. Number one, people don't always want to hear this stuff. People, you know, they want hype, they want speed, they want all these different things, because people will say, well, I don't want to get rich quick scheme. And if they don't get rich quick, then they're off looking for the next, I guess, not get rich quick scheme. People really do want to get rich quick scheme. But if you want to get wealthy over a period of time, and you want to be able to sleep at night, you want to be able to deliver something to the marketplace that people understand, that will have an impact, that will truly move the needle, you're talking about a company that I don't have to know all these terms, because we have a Dr. Jen who's taken, you know, who's dedicated her life to this. I mean, she's giddy about it. She's excited about this information. I am too. When I hear it, it validates the reason why I got involved in Euphoria.